Hi, I am Juliana Gardia. In today's podcast, we'll be learning about the different forms of power and fear that are resembled in art. First, we have the lamassu. During the Neo-Assyrian Empire, large monumental bulls, often with wings and human heads, were placed as the gateway guardians of the entrance of royal palaces, such as the Sargon Palace. The general idea behind them was that they warded off evil, guarded the gate of the palace from both supernatural and natural enemies. Shows power of the and wealth of the king because he could control these types of animals and were thought to come alive when the palace was in danger. From the frontal view, the lamassu shows them at rest, but from side, they are moving, especially since during this time period it was very violent. It is a relief sculpture attached to a flat surface, typically against a wall. The sculptor gave these guardian figures 5 legs so they appear to be standing firmly when viewed from the front, but striding when they are seen from the side. Some components of the lamassu include bearded male head, typically they were made out of limestone, body of a lion or bull, flowers on the crown, inscriptions addressing the power of the king, wings of an eagle, horned headdress of a god, and the lamassus were made out of monoliths, which means that it was carved from one stone. Made in 700 BCE to show wealth of the Sargon Palace, to impress foreign visitors, reiterate power over lower class people, depict safety and strength of the city. They guarded the gates of the citadel from war. I believe that the lamassu was created with elements of different creatures to produce an altogether strong and fearful beast. The beast has the body of a lion, muscular and athletic. The sculpture emphasizes a robust muscle with the line in the leg area. This sculpture expels a very dangerous vibe with very large clawed feet. This intimidating sculpture, created as a relief form, alabaster, makes you want to move around him. The king's guardian lamassu stands very lavishly. Some parts of this beast are very stylish. The way there is perfect tight curls through his beard and hair, the beast is wearing earrings and a luxurious looking hat. The lamassu is also wearing a detailed belt. Even the wings of an eagle are stylized as well. By sculpting the lamassu in this wealthy way reflected on the kings to say that they are wealthy and powerful. I think the lamassu was created to show power and dominance of the kings and to incite fear into their enemies. The lamassu can be found today in present time in Iraq. They stand over 10 feet tall and would have been a quiet and imposing presence for visitors. At the same time, they were meant to protect the kingdom from demonic forces. The lamassu guardians were sculpted in pairs that they were in the front of the king's throne room. At the entrance, anybody entering the palace would have to pass between these fearsome guardians, reminding them of the king's power. The lamassu conveys both fear of the people of invasion and political shift in Sargon, the determination to stay in power. They are symbols of his power and dominance over the land and its people, and it shows he is determined that he will not give up against his enemies. The contribution of the man's head and the eagle's wings and the lion's body create an altogether fierce, authoritative beast. As a result of the creator sculpting the lamassu this way, he sends a message that he protects the king. This brute of a statue represents the wealth, power, and dominance and the strength of a king. There are many of these sculptures that are still in existence, and some have taken insight and inspiration, like the ones in the British Museum. Another example of this would be the infamous terracotta warriors. The terracotta army refers to thousands of life-size clay models of soldiers, horses, and chariots. They were discovered in 1974 when just 2 farmers were digging a well and discovered them. The warriors were found over 20 square feet miles. On average, a warrior weighs 300 pounds each. 8,000 terracotta warriors are unique and do not share any of the same characteristics. The terracotta army sculptures were made from wet clay that was allowed to dry and then baked in tin. Then they were painted but eventually faded back to clay as they were discovered. They were made during the Qin dynasty. Qin was the first emperor of China and took over and built his own government. He wanted to take the warriors with him to the afterlife to have an army and rule because he was scared of dying. The exhibition also features arms and armor horses, and chariot fittings, ritual bronze vessels, works in gold and silver, jade ornaments, and precious jewelry and ceramics. The emperor was born in 260 BC, took his position when he was just 13, and he died and buried in 210 BC. It took approximately 40 years for the construction and sculptures of the emperor's terracotta warriors and horses to be completed. There were more than 700,000 laborers working on the tomb complex and on the terracotta army. The stability of the Qin's route enabled China to experience great advances in political, economy, and culture, including the introduction of a standard written script, a system of canals, and roads. However, Qin was not the nicest. He was known for his brutishness. He ordered the killings of scholars whose ideas he opposed and showed little regard for the life of the conscripts who built those public work projects, including his burial complex. Numerous laborers and artisans lost their lives during its construction, while others reportedly killed in order to preserve the secrecy of the tomb's location and treasures buried within, due to he was scared of dying and wanted to create an army to bring with him to the afterlife, to frighten. The army of life-size terracotta soldiers, archers, horses, and chariots was stationed in the military formation near Emperor Qin's tomb in order to protect the emperor in the afterlife. Though most of the heads are identical and only 8 molds were used to shape their heads, distinctive surface features were added with clay after the assembly. As a result, each terracotta soldier appears to be unique in its facial features, revealing a high level of craftsmanship and artistry. During excavation of the pits containing the terracotta warriors, archaeologists have found some 40,000 bronze weapons, including battle axes, crossbows, arrowheads, and even spears. Even after 2,000 years, the weapons remained extremely well preserved, and 40 years after its discovery, less than 1% of the Emperor Qin's tomb has been excavated. Nearly all the soldiers wore knee-length gowns and short pants. However, the cavalry soldiers wear hu dresses. Hu refers to the northern minorities living in northwestern part of ancient China, and they dress them alongside with long pants. Unlike the loose clothing worn by people living in central China at the time, hu dresses were tight, which was easy for horse racing and archery. Compared to the terracotta officers, and the soldiers wore relatively simple armor coats, which were made of plates only. The plates on the armor are larger and the quantity is less. The army worn by the terracotta soldiers have front sides and back sides as well. In general, they can also be divided into 2 types, with and without shoulder pads. Many of the soldiers do not have armor. Most terracottas wore shoes, while a few wore boots. The shoes are similar to those of officers, but the toe caps are less curved. The boots are a symbol of the hu dress, within soles, round toe caps, and short tops. They were mostly for cavalry warriors. This concludes today's podcast. So whether it be a statue or paintings, emperors and kings try to show their power to incite fear and show their power and dominance. Thank you for joining today's podcast. I hope you have learned the different details that incite power and have more perspective on the reasonings behind the terracotta soldiers and on the lamasu's. Thanks for listening. I'll be back next week with a brand new podcast.